What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York, calling from the quarantine zone again, and this time we got Mikael of the almighty Dark Tranquility. Thank you for your time today, man.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Right here with you, man.
Yeah, great to catch up with you again. It's been 2 years since we spoke at the Amorphous tour.
Oh, yeah. Sweet.
Yep.
Good times.
Yep. Who would have thought that the world would have taken the turn it did at that time?
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. But it's so awesome to have you here. The new album Moment is coming out very soon. Do you just consider this a direct continuation of Atoma, or do you think that this is almost kind of like a new start for Dark Tranquility since it's been 4 years?
A little bit of both. I would say it's a refinement. It started out definitely like a continuation of Atoma, but I think we realized, as we started writing and started collaborating all together with the new guitar players, that this could be something more, and we had more opportunities, more time, and more different kind of skill set working on this album. And I think that's what kind of separates it. So it's definitely a big step forward, but of course it's grounded in the same kind of basic stuff that we've been doing all this time.
Yeah. So do you think that the first single that you released, Phantom Days, could almost serve as like a clear representation of what the whole album is going to sound like, or is that just the tip of the iceberg?
It's just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more to this album. No, I don't know. Like, definitely for like some of the heavier stuff, but there's a lot more going on. It's a way more emotional album, I think, in many ways, and it does change. Like, that's where the album starts as the first track, but it doesn't end that way at all. So I think that's what excites me about it. That we were able to do things, or we tried things that we wouldn't have dared otherwise. Now we felt like, this is the time to experiment a little bit more, because, yeah, why not?
Yeah. So, like, was there maybe a preconceived idea of how Moment was supposed to kind of sound like, or was there maybe, like, as you mentioned, like a lot of experimentation, some trial and error involved?
A lot of trial and error, but also I think we did have an idea at first, but it never happens the way you plan it, right? So we started out, like, some of Anders' stuff that he wrote was kind of straightforward, melodic, and just the way we like it. And then we started working, and I think we started early last year already to write together in the studio. We recorded the songs 5, 7, 8, 10 times, in different incarnations, just to see what fits right and what works. And then Johan and Chris kind of added their stuff to it, and their way of playing and their way of kind of thinking about music. So that changed as well. So it ended up something completely different, but that was the whole idea as well.
Okay, so when we listen to this album come November, is what we're hearing like arrangement wise, maybe like these aren't how the songs were originally written, right? These songs clearly changed a lot over a span of time.
Yeah, as it should, and it's a constant kind of refinement and fine tuning, and to set a certain tone and to get the right feel for a song. And I think that's something that we, because of the situation in the world, like all of a sudden, like we had another month in the studio or more for the proper recording, and that meant we could like really try things out and make sure that it just feels exactly as we wanted it to.
Mm-hmm. As a fan of Dark Tranquility, I remember you just said that like Moment is like rooted in like what we all know and love from Dark Tranquility. But if you played me 30 seconds of a Dark Tranquility song, I could tell that that's off of The Gallery, or that's off of Fiction, or Character, Damage Done, etc. So have you always maybe like intentionally maybe experimented and take a new approach to writing new material?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we want to do, but of course, like you still have like your basic skill set when it comes to writing melodies, chord progressions, whatever, and it just ends up being very much Dark Tranquility anyway. No matter how our intentions are, initially, maybe we think like, oh, this is the time to make an album that is totally different. Maybe it starts that way, but then what ends up is something that still is very similar to what we are known for and what we feel comfortable with. And I like that. We can start out with a very fresh idea and still make it sound like, as you said, like Dark Tranquility and not something else.
Yeah. Well, you know,
It
it's
still should feel fresh and not a rehash and a repetition of things we've done in the past. That would be a failure on our part.
yeah, I think you have like the best of both worlds, like going back to like his moment, like a follow up to Atoma and, you know, so on and so forth. But like, I feel like it really, no record is like a continuation of the last album. I feel like it's just a continuation of your evolution.
Yeah, and also that maybe part of it is because we take our sweet time with it, and yeah, it's been 4 years since Atoma, and sometimes we do need it, not only for touring, but also for kind of, you know, recharging and finding inspiration again, and you know, being curious and being kind of excited about writing again. It kind of takes it out of you, you know, recording an album and writing for a year and a half. But then you tour and then you kind of get back to it, and it's only when we feel ready to do it that we actually, you know, get back in the writing process. And because doing it too soon would probably mean that it's just a simple continuation and not kind of a proper kind of refinement and evolution.
Yeah, definitely. And like when you look at the entirety of the Dark Tranquility catalog from Skydancer to now, do you almost like look at it as like a self-portrait or like a representation of who you are at that particular time?
I would say so. Like, it's, you know, I think of it as time capsules. You know, this is who we were in '95, and that's the gallery. You know, we're us playing at the top of our ability or above. And just trying things out, and then, you know, whenever we did Haven, it was that's we were like what we wanted to do at the time, and I think that, you know, for me it's great to look back and sometimes revisit some of the old albums, trying to figure out what the hell we were thinking, what was going through our minds, and what was happening in our lives at the time. You know, that we wanted to write such an album, so yeah, it really kind of represents its time. Obviously, this year is very different, so that comes through in music as well.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as like when we hit 2020, I was like wondering. I was actually thinking about you guys in a way because, you know, it's the 10-year anniversary of We Are the Void. It's the 20-year anniversary of Haven. Like, can we maybe get like a full Dark Tranquility set list of like deep cuts, or maybe an album in full?
That would be nice. There's a lot of celebrations, yeah. Like, and we're not really that kind of band. We don't get very nostalgic that often, and so. But maybe that's the solution. Like, if things ever happen where we can actually go and tour, or we do a couple more like streaming shows or anything like that, maybe that's what we need to do. That would be fun.
Yeah, I would love to. I mean, We Are the Void was the album cycle that I discovered you guys on the Killswitch Engage Devil Wears Prada tour. So, like, it would be great to hear that album in full.
Oh, yes. I love that one.
Yeah, that one is incredible. And when it comes to the lyrics of Dark Tranquility, like, do you always need to hear music to come up with lyrics, or have you ever had like a lyrical concept in mind or direction for the lyrics that could help dictate the direction of the music?
Well, I normally, you know, I have like an outline, and I have a lot of material, like before we start writing, but it only like starts to kind of make sense and fit in once I hear the song, and, you know, at least I get a feel for what we want to do. So last year when we started, like, I started writing just like scratch lyrics, just so that I have something to sing, just so that we have a basic idea of what the song could be, and it kind of grew from there. And so it was a different process this time. Normally we finish the song completely and then I start, you know, but here I started early, and I think that helped like the songwriting process somewhat.
Mm-hmm.
I need to be inspired, you know, and it's not like I write like 10, 15 songs and then fit them on an album. I need to hear it and get the rhythm of the song and the feel of it before I start like actually putting words to it.
Yeah, have you ever had like the best lyrics ever, but then they're always like one syllable over like every arrangement you have?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, so that's why I stopped years ago doing that, because it just doesn't work. You know, it's better to actually have a song and kind of know the meter and know the tempo of it and what I need to do. Makes it way easier process, and less frustrating.
And kind of going back to what you said about like the inspiration, like do you almost need to be in a certain place at a certain time in order for the inspiration to come through, or does inspiration sometimes like strike when you least expect it?
Yeah, it's a good thing to always carry around the phone and make notes. And whenever it can be anything, and I just try to constantly just like take notes and write things down that just feel good. Then usually just like getting focused. I usually like get up a bit early in the morning and just go like, okay, let's go to work. Put on your headphones, turn the music up super loud, and just like get a feel for it. That usually is enough. Like a pot of coffee, and I'm going. So sometimes that's all I need to. But that also means like I have a lot of material to kind of draw from that I already kind of collect over the years.
Yeah, and I feel like some of your lyrics too, like have like, especially in the times that we're living in now. I remember like listening to Fiction and then listening to Blind at Heart, and like those lyrics are so representative, for at least for my interpretation, are like so representative of the time that we're in now, because I feel like we are the fire that consumes itself. And like, do you like to leave the material open to interpretation, or do you try to maybe convey a certain message for the listeners to understand?
No, but I of course it is open, but and also it is kind of broad in a way. Like I speak about human condition or whatever you want to call it, or basic flaws in humanity, basic flaws in our personalities, like the reasons why we do certain things, like the cause for all this kind of conflict and division that we have, for instance. Like that's something that I write about, and that's of course universal, and that's going to be. Even if it's right now something that I think about constantly, like in 10 years, it's probably going to be a very similar situation, and it can apply to that year as well. So I think, the same with some of the older songs. And I really like that when we play certain old songs on stage now, I can kind of draw on those lyrics and try to feel how they fit in with the, current state of the world, or my current state, like how I feel, and it still works, and I kind of like that. So it's better to keep it a little bit loose and open and general in that sense.
I feel like your lyrics are both very literal and very metaphorical.
I like that like combination. Not be too on the nose, but also like speak about real things and not be too metaphorical and just too poetic, because then it kind of loses some of that impact, that I like. So it's a matter of like making strong metaphors that you get, and also like keeping it not too flowery,
Yeah, and like you also have different usages of your voice too. Like when you do like something as melodic as like what we hear in Misery's Crown or The Grandest Accusation versus like some of your most aggressive songs like The Treason Wall or Damage Done, like is it almost expressing a different side of you too, depending on the usages of your voice?
Yeah, definitely like part of the lyric, or what the song really needs. Like it has like a certain feel, and there's a part of, or the verse or a chorus or something like that just like this would benefit from doing it this way as opposed to screaming all the way through, and that means I could adapt the lyrics to that, or I write the lyrics where I feel like this is not something I would be comfortable screaming about, and then that really helps to broaden a song like lyrically and vocally and emotionally as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like, the music, it really, I feel, and, this isn't to discredit your vocals by any means, but like, I feel like the music in itself with the keyboards combined with the riffs also convey a similar emotion as well. I feel like,
of course.
I feel like an instrumental Dark Tranquility record could also convey just as much imagery and just as much emotion as well.
Yeah, I'd like to think so. And that's how I feel when I start writing to it. It's like sometimes I don't have to do that much, and you just kind of accentuate what's already there, or you follow the melody that's already there to kind of enhance it and not take away from it.
Yeah. But sometimes, and pun intended, when it comes to like capturing a moment in the music, like, because I feel like that's what your songs do. They kind of represent a state of mind or a state of being. But do you find it maybe like the longer you're working on something, the harder it is to kind of like capture that moment? Again, pun intended.
Yeah, yeah, we set us up for this one. Yeah, of course. I mean, it's easy to overdo things or to lose that feeling that you have about a song, And for us, that means it's kind of important to do things sometimes at the spur of the moment, kind of like to really get into it and feel fresh about it. So actually, some of the songs, like especially like for bass and some of the rhythm guitars, we were like, hey, let's not play it too much. Just to get a feel for it. We turn it up loud in the studio. Just go for it, And the same lyrics, even though our vocals, even though I sung these songs many times, I was just like, okay, like I still want a fresh feeling. And you try to imagine how this would be singing on stage, for instance, or being in a rehearsal room instead of like a clinical studio. So finding that feeling and that kind of that groove is really important, like in a studio, in order to kind of convey that, so they hopefully comes through when you listen to the album,
Yeah, well, you led me perfectly into the next question because, like, when I've seen Dark Tranquility now live pretty much on every single New York City date for the past like decade now. But like, I always see that there's so much freedom on stage. I could tell like the way that you express yourself on stage is beautiful. Do you find it like maybe a little bit more difficult when you're like in the studio and in the vocal booth where you're kind of like more confined and more dictated in a way?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's definitely totally different. But I try, to kind of set it up just the way I wanted to, like make sure everything sounds perfect, and you try to kind of get that live feel anyway, And we just turn it up loud, get a feel for it, and then just go for it. And we just do a lot of different takes just all the way through instead of just doing simple, phrase by phrase or anything like that. We just like go through the song a couple of times and then see if everything works, and then we kind of move on, just so that it actually has the right vibe. That's important.
Is there a similar energy into your live presence as you are when you are recording, or do you almost feel like it's a separate art altogether?
I mean, it is separate, of course, and you have someone to kind of communicate with, so of course it makes a difference. And of course, you want to capture that somehow in the studio, but yeah, it is different. I think you're making a record so that for people to listen to, put their headphones on or sit in front of their great stereo, that kind of thing, But then the performance part is it is separate in a way, but of course you're thinking about it, and it's in the back of your mind all the time, even though maybe not so much this year.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is because like do you almost have to like practice crowd interaction and practice like it's almost like going on stage almost like a choreography at this point?
No. I've never felt that. Maybe I've at one point in the 80s I stood in front of a mirror and practiced some moves, but no, I liked it for it to be like just a natural thing, where depending on the crowd, depending on the mood, depending on the stage, like you do what you feel is natural, or unnatural, but at least it feels good,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And the final question I wanted to ask you is that, I've always thought that Dark Tranquility has had such very, very dedicated fans over the years. Like, I'm a journalist at every show. So, like, my job is to kind of, like, interrupt people's discussion and, like, ask them, what did this band do for you? What did you, how do you identify with this? And, like, I've heard so many great stories on how, your art and your lyrics and your music has really inspired a lot of people and connected with them. When you hear on how your music resonates with people, does that almost change on how you look at yourself as an artist in a way?
It does affect us, of course. Like it's amazing. It's incredible. The stories we get to hear, when we do like, we do the like meet and greets and stuff like that, and we meet people after the show and before the shows and all that. It's amazing. Just how how our music is important to people. And it's a beautiful thing. Like, of course, I do think about it, but I try not to because it creates a lot of pressure, especially when writing it. It's difficult enough to kind of overcome your own hurdles, that you put up for yourself. But thinking about that too is weird. So but it's very liberating to now kind of be done with the album, kind of focus on like making sure everybody listens to it, and then we'll talk about it, and then we'll talk about how it feels, how people feel about it, and that I really look forward to. But of course we are deeply affected by that. But I try not to have it affect me too much when I write.
Yeah, you don't want to put pressure on yourself too much.
No, I do that on myself enough.
Of course. Well, that's the beauty of being an artist, right?
Fuck yeah, I don't know. It's a difficult thing. Like it's been okay this year or last year when we wrote the most. Just we took our sweet time with it. But otherwise, like it's usually like the most stressful thing I can imagine.
Yeah,
but,
definitely.
I guess it's good. Like something good comes out of it, and I know that. And it could be comforting knowing that eventually it's gonna be all right. But right now, it's just like unfathomable, hurdles that you just have to somehow get over.
Yeah, of course. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Yeah. Is there just anything else with Dark Tranquility that you would like to promote? We're eagerly awaiting for the Obscura tour that's announced for next year. Fingers crossed that it happens.
I don't know. It looks like it won't, but we're going to try to reschedule and rebook and everything like that.
Okay.
So hopefully it's going to happen as planned. We'll see.
Yeah.
But it's a year from now, so a lot of things might change. But for now, the album comes out on the 20th, and on the 21st, we're gonna do a live stream concert, like a proper release show, like as if this was the first show in New York City, as we normally do when we release an album. And so the plan is to do full production for that show, play the entire album from front to back, and at least that's as close as we can get to a lot of people. So at least we have something, and you guys can see us, and we can feel that you're there watching, and hopefully we'll do some kind of interaction and at least be somewhat kind of present. And I can't wait to do that. It means being on stage together at least. It's going to be awesome.
Are you going to be responsible for any furniture that could get broken in anybody's living room for mosh pits in their house?
I think you have to sign a contract before you kind of sign up for watching the show. So maybe we have to put that in there. But no, I don't take any responsibility for that. But please, go nuts. I encourage that.
Okay. Yeah, I live on the 9th floor of my building. Hopefully no chairs fly out my window.
But
thank you.
Very cool.
Yeah, thank you so much, Michael. Everybody, we are here with Mikael of Dark Tranquility. Moment coming out November 20th. Be sure to pick it up then. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.